Hello, 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 hello. It is May 1st, a little before noon Pacific time, and happy Beltane blessings to you, beloveds. Yes, I hope that in your celebration of May Day, of Beltane, of however you like to think about May 1st, that you are seeking a deeper marriage with the land. So I'm coming to you today with so many beautiful, powerful, exciting kind of downloads and energetics that I'm bringing through at this time to share, some of which I'm able to bring into form, into words for us today, and some of which I'm just transmitting through as I'm speaking, as always. And I'm really, really excited for where things are, and the energies are feeling just phenomenal. So much fun. Since yesterday, I've been just having just like bloop, 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 bloop. So I want to ask you, those are my gifts dropping in, by the way, and there have been many already, but there was more of them. And so I want to ask you, are your gifts dropping in? So fun. Loving those gifts dropping in. And they will look absolutely unique to each of you. Absolutely unique. New awarenesses, new clarity, new physical things that are coming into fruition very quickly now, new relationships, new endings, which are also always gifts, even when we are feeling pain from them. So we had the super cool eclipse the other day, and we are now in that fun kind of eclipse portal period. And we're moving and sort of zooming along towards the next big eclipse, which is on May 15th or 16th, depending on your time zone. And with this most recent eclipse, we had kind of the kicking off, if you will, the bringing in of some incredibly important, powerful energies that actually will have, I think, 6 or 7 different key inflection points over the next 3 years, which is a pretty significant cycle for eclipse impact. And then also at the same time as the eclipse on the 15th, or 16th, wherever you are, we also have an energetic new cycle beginning that is very, very powerful, that is a 12-year cycle. It's not so much that the eclipse is kicking that off as that it is aligning exactly with that. And so just a very cool, powerful piece. So the kind of the new phase that we are in, we're kind of moving towards a big new beginning. With that kicks in with that coming eclipse, and we're always having these new beginnings, and sometimes people feel frustrated by that, like, when are we just going to be done and just settle in? And I'm just here to tell you that I'm sorry, that is not the ride you signed up for this life. Now, if you really do want to just kind of be done, you always can choose that, to just kind of check out of the whole evolutionary wild ride and, just kind of settle into a more simple, basic kind of experience. You can always choose that. Do understand that society will be expressing and reflecting these massive evolutionary shifts. And so if you really want to design that very kind of simple, basic, sort of checked out life that doesn't have this huge evolutionary drive to it, then I would suggest that you design that in a manner that doesn't require you to be very connected into what's going on in society or dependent on that. And that's all I'm going to say about that, because I'm here in this life entirely for the incredibly juicy, fun, flow, playful, sacred experience of the ever-shifting evolutionary energy of the deep sacred current of life force. So the deep sacred current of life force is running through all things. It is animating all things. It is connecting and joining all things, or rather, more correctly, all things are connected because of that animating force of the deep sacred current of life force. And its desire is to be always creating and evolving and moving and growing and shifting and changing. And the rhythms and phases of that are many. So we also have a very interesting thing. So I personally also have a very interesting thing going on in these last couple of days. It was brought back into my human awareness that it is basically just a few days after the 1-year anniversary in my timeline of the founder codes being released to the earth and to humanity. And this is an incredibly exciting thing for me to be aware of and to celebrate. And it feels very weird in my human that that's a year ago, because it feels like more lifetimes than I can count in that past year. And just take a moment and kind of drop into a year ago for a minute. Just drop into the idea of 1 year ago and how it used to be we would talk about a year ago, and it wasn't that long ago. Like, remember years ago when it was like, oh yeah, that was just a year ago. And like, okay, cool, just sort of 12 months just occurred. 52 little tiny weeks, 365 little tiny days. What? That is just not my experience of time anymore. That is so far away. That is like the far end, like looking through the telescope in the wrong direction is how it feels to me instead. And I don't know if you're having that experience as well, but you may be, and you can kind of laugh and celebrate with me if you are. So, but a year ago, the founder codes came in, and this was so important to the expansion and the uplifting of the energetics for the planet and for kind of the particularly the very kind of vanguard edge of the humans that are, if you will, leading the expansion of these energetics, of these higher dimensional, of these codes of the light on the planet and amongst humanity. And so really very important. And so we've been letting these codes open and unfurl within us for this past year in many different ways. And you've been doing this work, whether you called it the founder codes or not, and you've been doing this work whether you accessed my initial sharings of that or not. And it's fine for you to call it something else. It does not ever matter what our mental models are. They are always just about like what's useful to help us kind of jump to the next place. And the brain and the mind really needs and likes that, what's a mental model I can work with here that supports my kind of aha, that gets me into the next kind of embodied, visceral, ooh experience, which then in turn usually will activate some new aha, which opens up into a new mental model. And they play back and forth together within us as we go. Now, if you're listening to this and you are also a highly gifted human, then I want you to hear this very specific piece, which is that your highly gifted brain is a portal. And we'll get into more of that in the future. But I just want you to kind of drop into that whole concept for yourself privately as we go. So I'm celebrating the anniversary of the founder codes, and I'm doing that by providing and offering a incredibly rare opportunity to come into a small, powerful, potent group and container of other humans that are interested and desirous of connecting into accessing those founder codes, and especially to deepen into the integration of what's been happening in this past year and the leaving behind what is no longer powerful for us, what is not supporting anymore the kind of ever-evolving expression of the deep sacred current of life force in this time, right? And so this rare opportunity is going to be a several-week private container where I will meet live with the folks along the journey. Everyone will have access to all of the previously privately held materials around the founder codes from a year ago and new materials, and we will co-create together new materials energetically, new codes energetically, and new guided journeys together. And then those materials will remain available to you. And where we're going to focus sort of on some of the human pieces as well is really also support for the exhaustion that you may have been feeling in your mind and body, even while you're feeling the uplifting and the kind of like, wow, I'm so here for it. There may be this exhaustion in mind and body that you have been experiencing, or that you may experience as a result of some of these big shifts in May, because May is like, what is happening in May? I'm going to talk about May in just a minute here. And so we're going to really support that kind of exhaustion in the mind and the body, of the integrations and this feeling of not knowing. So as we move closer and closer to that May 15th eclipse, we may experience an increase of a sense of kind of the inner masculine being tired, of not having kind of the strength and the fuel that, quote unquote, he, and this is within all of us, so it doesn't matter about kind of our gender or our sex, within that he is feeling this kind of being tired and not having access to his own fuel source, which in part comes from that feeling of clarity, that feeling of, I know what's going on, I know what to do, I know where to go. And he's been not really having this right now, and it's exhausting him, poor dear. And the energetics here allow us, in this container that we will create, the opportunity to lift him up and carry him up to a higher level of being, expressing, resourcing, and fueling. So that's just one little tiny piece, but I mention it because I think it's going to be very alive for people right now, that idea of the exhaustion of the mind and the body. So back to kind of the larger intel. So May is completely intense, okay? Just so intense, just May, just so intense. So we have in this, I'm recording this on May 1st, as I said, we have in these next sort of week, 7 to 10 days or so, continued wild, high, fast energetics. We will have kind of acceleration of the energies throughout May, but we are going to start to experience, if you will, a kind of a slowing down as we move into the second week of May and through the rest of May. And this slowdown is actually, like, you could experience this as a frustration, but I really encourage you to experience it as incredibly supportive. It is a very, very useful time for integration, and a very, very useful time for kind of being able to go down in under the surface of the topsoil, where you see above the soil, you see all the beautiful plants that are springing and blooming, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm all about those new beautiful flowers that are coming in. I'm all about that beautiful wild meadow that I've created, in my yard instead of having a lawn. I'm all about these beautiful flowers that are blooming in my life. But this is actually a time to go in underneath the topsoil to see both, where are there still some roots of some undesirable things growing under the surface, so that we can really pull them out at the root, and also to go deep down in under the surface of the soil, where we come into the mycelial networks of your soul. And we get that deep, rich connection into this unbelievably, inexpressibly spread out, incredibly vibrant, incredibly powerful resource of this mycelial network of your soul, that is bringing and feeding in all sorts of communications and supports and resources, and bringing out from you also the same sharing for the other beings that we are all connected to. Because we are all deeply connected. We are all deeply embedded in this same beautiful deep sacred current of life force, and this incredible mycelial network that connects us all, allows us to communicate, to share, to bring each other up, to send over what's needed at a time of need, to receive back in what is needed at a time of need, to bring out beautiful light and energy and resources and share that through all of it. So there's a really beautiful kind of expansion of the quantum level of relationship, if you will, that is really opening and expanding. And this slowing down a little bit in May is very useful. Now, many will experience that slowing down as frustrating, as I don't know what's going on. They will have negative stories around it. They will feel like I'm failing, I'm flailing, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. This is a time of increasing separations. And one of those separations is for you to choose a separation from old stories that don't serve you anymore. This time of increasing separations is occurring as boundary requirements of what is yours and what is not yours to be and to do for the current and coming phases of your experience as an embodied being. These boundary requirements are coming into an increasingly harsh demand on you. And you may be feeling that demand. You may not fully be aware or realize that this is a boundary demand that you are feeling. If you're feeling things are kind of poking at you, or kind of sharp, or kind of harsh, or kind of like, just bumming you out in a way that you can't quite get your head around, go a little deeper for a moment and sense into the questions of, is this possibly a boundary requirement being placed on me for moving ahead in my highest timeline versus staying stuck in old lower timelines? This is part of the separations that we are experiencing, and the tension of those separations is growing very rapidly right now. So feel into those questions, but then more importantly, inside you, in your energetics and in your emotionality, seek to be the water that flows and moves with those demands. Otherwise, you will feel the pain and pressure of the way those demands will crush you against the sharp rocks of that knowledge and demand. And part of, you're not normally used to hearing from me these kind of intense, like, ouch sort of warnings. I'm afraid that I'm here to tell you I'm not afraid of anything, but I'm not afraid for you. But this is a time of more firm boundaries, more firm, like, yeah, no, this is it. This is me. This is not me. I'm doing this. I'm not doing that. This person not allowed, this model not allowed, this advice not useful, this pathway not allowed, this is where I'm going, this is what's happening, this is what I'm doing, this is who I am, this is what I came here to be, and I'm not going to put up with any other bullshit that gets in the way of that. We're cleaning and clearing away any filters, any gunk, anything that gets in the way of our experience of being as clean and as clear and as transparently what we truly are and what we truly came here to be, and then moving through any remaining kind of windows or doors, even if they appear to be perfectly clean in their window pane, we're actually also moving and removing even those clear window panes and just going out into the clean, clear, pure light and expressing that within our being. And anything which doesn't support that is out. And any way in which you don't stand for that will hurt dramatically. Now, that's not to say that anything that you're experiencing, where you're experiencing hurt, is driven solely by this. There are many variables that can be going on around having the experience of feeling kind of hurt or in pain in various ways. But I guarantee you, that if you don't stand for yourself around whatever that inner kind of sense of those boundaries are at this time for yourself, it's going to create a much greater, sharper pain than not standing for it in the past has created. And some of these may be brand new boundaries. So it may just simply be about discerning and then upholding the new pieces in order to avoid pain, if you will. Although that's not why we do it. We don't do it to avoid pain. We do it for the way in which it just lifts us way up, the next beautiful piece. So yeah, so really, you can experience the slowdown later in May as a kind of, oh no, I'm trying to move through molasses. Oh no, like it's sticky and gross or muddy and gross and I can't get going. Or you can kind of relax back into it as it starts to come in the second week of May and sort of relax into it like a beautiful, like, melted honey in the sun vibe. Right? That like, oh, it's like gooey and rich and all those beautiful sun codes and bee codes and incredible energetics. Just like, yeah, I'm going to just wrap myself up in that incredible luxury. That's just so fantastic. And it is available to all. So, I will share more details with you about this rare opportunity to join me in a private container around the founder codes. I'll put a link in the show notes at some point here, or you can ping me for more information on that if you want it. But what I really, really want for you today is just to feel the way these energies are just bringing you so up high and how fun it is. And I want to finish with a song. Also, it's 12:12 for me right now, and that number is being very shouty at me right now. So I'm shouting it back out to you. 12:12, 12:12. Fun energetics through the numbers. Sometimes that occurs. So I'm going to play a song. I'm just going to cut into the middle of this song because it's just so on point for where we are right now. And you can just sing along with me if you want. You can just enjoy the song. You can go find it for yourself, dance around, put it on repeat. It's such a good song. It's so on point right now. A little Earth, Wind, and Fire. Victory in a land called fantasy. Life for you and me to behold. To your soul with ecstasy, you will find that the kind has been in search of you. Many life has brought you to recognize that your life now in you. As these days for the place that the sea has in store for you, the Lord light will see you through. It's your day, shining day, all your dreams come true. As you glide in the sky, with the wind as you fly away, with a smile from your lips and say, I'm free, yes I'm free, now I'm on my way. In a land of fantasy, life for you and me to behold, to your soul with ecstasy. You will find in search of you, and life has brought you to recognize it's your life now in review. That doesn't lift you up, I don't know what will. So good. I love you so much. Thank you so much for your light in the world. Have wonderful times. Mwah.